We welcome you back now to day 2 of our coverage of the Republican National Convention here in Cleveland from the Quicken Loans Arena. The theme today will be Making America Work Again, and several rather big-name speakers set to take the stage today, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and 2 of Donald Trump's children. But as day 2 gets underway, day 1 still on the minds of many. Here to break it all down, the editor-in-chief at The Hill, Bob Cusack, and CBS News senior political editor, Steve Chaggaris. And guys, we sat here chatting as we watched the program about not just what we saw last night, the speech from Melania Trump, initially well-received, later revealed perhaps to have cribbed a paragraph of a speech given by Michelle Obama in 2008, whole hog. But certainly now the evolution of the response by the Trump campaign today. It went from Paul Manafort, the campaign chairman, saying, I don't know what you're talking about, to perhaps she subconsciously lifted this, to now essentially it's Hillary Clinton's fault, though we should say we can find no evidence that the Clinton campaign has in fact responded at all to any of it. So, Steve, first to you. The political fallout of what we're discussing now might be what?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Melania Trump. I think the political fallout, frankly, is that Monday turned out to be a really sad day for the Republicans and for the convention. They had a day where they had come up with a pretty cohesive theme. They spent the night slamming Hillary Clinton in a pretty effective way, whether it was Benghazi, national security. You had some pretty interesting speakers. You had Rudy Giuliani all fired up and getting on his speech on in prime time and really hammering Clinton and really making the case for Donald Trump. You had Melania giving a speech that was, as you said, well received in the room. And I think if anybody had just seen the speech and the plagiarism charge didn't happen, we'd probably figure, well, it's a fairly successful speech for a woman who doesn't do this for a living, who clearly English is not her first language, and delivered this speech very well. And then next thing you know, we're not talking about any of that. The message is out the window, and we're talking about one paragraph in a speech that likely she did not write, that some sloppy staffer put in there, and she had no idea what she was saying, and next thing you know, that's all we're talking about. And it's really, the political fallout is they don't get to gain anything from a day where they had a pretty good program set up.
And Bob, one of the issues certainly is here that Melania Trump in an interview prior to giving her speech said, I wrote it all myself. She took full ownership of it. That too now has had to be walked back. What if anything else does this say perhaps about the state of this campaign right now?
Well, I think the RNC and the Trump campaign has to shift, because if you admit an error, it goes away. Say it's a staff error, which it probably was. But I think being defensive about it, blaming Hillary Clinton, that's just not working. I think they got off to a decent start because they had to torpedo the Never Trump movement. They wanted to make that a one-day story. It was awkward. Now this is super awkward. Now we go into a day 2, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell. How much are they going to talk about Donald Trump? They've criticized him publicly. Could be another awkward day.
I do want to say as well, the RNC chairman, Reince Priebus, has said it is reasonable that someone might be fired over this. Again,
you think?
We'll wait to see. But to those speakers now, Bob, specifically the speaker, whose endorsement of Donald Trump, tepid at best. It was long in coming, and he certainly, since giving it, has not been shy to criticize at least the messages and the various perceived gaffes of the presumptive nominee that he has seen since giving it. What then to expect from him tonight?
Well, I'm waiting for Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell to be on the same stage as Donald Trump. We have not seen them together at a press conference all year. How rare is that? I think Ryan is walking a delicate line. He wants to talk about policy. Obviously, this year is all about politics. I think he's doing as well as he can. He's got to be worried about his House majority, largest majority in 8 decades. Democrats are licking their chops, thinks that Trump will help them win back that. And, of course, Mitch McConnell has to worry about his Senate majority, which is very, very narrow and fragile.
Steve, last night we saw variations of a long-running theme, fear-mongering to a degree. There was a night that many described as grim and very light on specifics and talking about national security. As we then pivot now to talk of the economy tonight, is there any expectation from you that we might hear positive messages as to what the country might expect from a Trump presidency economically?
Possibly. I mean, they argue that the positive message is make America great again, right? That's their positive message. And so they're going to talk generally about the kinds of things that they want to do in terms of the economy. They want to rail on the Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration on trade. But I don't think you're going to hear a lot of specifics. That's not what these events are for. These events are for just sort of making the argument as to why Donald Trump is the right prescription for America and why Hillary Clinton is the wrong prescription for America. Probably a lot more on the Hillary Clinton part, as we heard yesterday. Actually, one thing I want to look for tonight, there's two people speaking from Arkansas tonight. So the governor and the attorney general, the current governor and attorney general. I'm just wondering how much they talk about Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton's past in Arkansas. I wonder if that comes up at all. I know it doesn't really fit the theme, but it's sort of interesting to go on back-to-back tonight.
And the governor was a former impeachment manager.
That's right.
And back in Congress.
So that should be an interesting one to watch. But getting back to your question, this isn't about laying out specifics. That's for later in the campaign. It will be interesting to see how Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell hit this, though, because there are major differences in what they believe in terms of issues than Donald Trump. And I'm going to be counting the number of times they say Donald Trump's name in their remarks.
So if we've seen what we might expect from politicians and other figures, we've also seen another of the themes, at least over the last 2 days, the idea of humanizing Donald Trump as a family man. Last night, as a husband, his wife certainly spoke to his patriotism, perhaps, if not any more personal aspects of his nature as a husband or father. But now tonight, we're going to hear from two of the children. And certainly in the recent weeks, we have seen at least media reports suggest that his adult children have taken increasing amounts of control within the campaign. So tonight, we're going to hear from Tiffany Trump, his daughter, and Donald Jr. What do you expect from that?
Well, I think the family's going to play a big role, and it's true that they had a big role in picking Mike Pence over Newt Gingrich and Chris Christie as VP, and I think that was the right pick for them. I think the family needs to. Donald Trump is hard around the edges. You have to soften him up. They have to do that this week. But there are some good signs for the Republican Party, is that we've had these terrible terrorist attacks. That helps Donald Trump, generally speaking, and look at the polls. And 7 in 10 Americans think the country's going the wrong way. But Republicans have to take advantage of that. They have not over the last couple of months.
And they have a chance to do it here in day two. Steve Chaggaris, of course, with us all day. Bob Cusack, great to see you.
Great to see you, Jess.
Thanks as always.